Welcome, fans, to another edition of the Cheap Heat Productions podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, no gimmicks guy, and I'm very pleased to welcome back for what will be a very informative edition as well as entertaining edition, discussing the company, the hugely successful independent company that was AWA Superstars. And of course, I'm back once again with the illustrious one, Jonnie. Stewart, Jonnie, thanks for coming on again tonight.
Thank you for having me on again, Jack. I certainly appreciate it. Like I've said in the previous conversations that we've had, the fan response has been just great and overwhelming and heartfelt. And so many people from your channel have reached out and emailed me some of the nicest emails I've gotten in a long time. And I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me.
Well, I certainly think that this topic in particular will be one that longtime fans certainly are maybe aware of the company, but don't really know just how successful it was and how many legends you were involved in booking. But before we get into the names themselves, playing the name game again, I thought it would be best to start off with you explaining how set the scene. The AWA, the original AWA, is gone, and this entity known as AWA Superstars comes to fruition. Just that history, please.
Yes, and thank you for letting me speak this. I spoke the truth about it in a magazine that just started like 2.5, 3 years ago by Jimmy Van's magazine. Um, and I was grateful to set the record straight, because there is so much conjecture and so much bullshit out there about Dale Gagne and about the AWA Wrestling Superstars that I think people really need to hear the full truth. And I've been brutally honest for 3 times, and that's not going to stop this time. And what I'm telling you, again, like always, I can back up with emails, documents, legal paraphernalia, whatnot. So it was in 1996, and Dale Gagne is out of the wrestling business. Dale Gagne, a former executive spot show producer, ring announcer for the original AWA. And he is running a chain of hotels in Minnesota, very successful, very good at his job. And I get a fax machine to our car dealership, and it's typical Dale Gagne marketing. It's just a picture of Baron von Raschke with his hand holding out the claw, and his claw is like 3D, and inside the claw was a baseball, and it said, Rumble on the Mound. And it was about a wrestling show at the AA baseball stadium in Rochester, Minnesota. Not 65 names on a poster, a typical Dale Gagne, what would be in the future a signature name to an event, one single superstar on the advertisement, a tie-in, wrestling, baseball, Baron von Raschke holding the baseball. And I said, oh, this has got to be Dale Gagne's. And so sure enough, Dale called me about an hour later and said, I'm not sure if I want to take a step into the wrestling business, but I'm going to promote one show at the AA baseball stadium in Rochester, Minnesota. And I'd like to have you on, and I'd like to give you the belt. If we do start something, we can at least start off with, we've got a champion, and if something comes to fruition, great. If not, great. Didn't do anything with legalese or business licensing or anything like that. We just ran a renegade show, a spot show, a sold show for the Rochester baseball team. It's pretty successful. I think we probably had 1,200 people there. And Dale gets contacted by a very successful big bar/nightclub in Rochester a couple of weeks later, like, hey, can you do this for my bar, or can I sponsor wrestling? And so Dale has a show at the local Fairground Civic Auditorium building. That does pretty well. It gets press coverage, as every one of Dale Gagne's events did. And Dale kind of sat back and said, geez, wrestling looks like it's coming back around. This is now Steve Austin and The Rock and The Undertaker and Mankind, Mick Foley are starting to make their prominence, Generation X with the WWF. And Dale says, I think with my promotional materials, maybe I could sell some shows and we could do this part time. I said, that's great. Let's really do it legal. I've got a family business. You're a businessman with this hotel chain. Let's protect ourselves. So the full story and the full truth, because I've got the paperwork and the filings, we went to the Minnesota Secretary of State to get what's called an assumed name. Now, I called the lady. I'm telling this story because this is really interesting. People need to know this. I called the lady on Monday at the Minnesota Secretary of State. This is where you would go to start running a business to get a business license. And let's say Minneapolis, they were going to say, well, what is your assumed name in the state? Do you have a registered assumed name? Which is a very simple process. Credit to the state of Minnesota. So I called the lady. This is a great story. And I said, I'd like to start a wrestling organization. Oh, that's fine. It's only $25, I think, or it's $50. She would fax me the application. I'd fax her back. She said, but to stop a lot of the going back and forth, I can look up the names as you give them to me. What name would you like to register? So I'm sitting there and I said, is the AWA available? She types it in. She's like, well, America West Airlines um, is registered, but the name AWA is not registered as an assumed name. Folks, I'm telling you the truth here. 1996. And I said, ma'am, let's just call her Shirley. I'm like, Shirley, you've got to be mistaken. Vern Gagne ran the AWA since the 60s in Minnesota. She's like, but he never had an assumed name called the AWA. And I went, okay. She's like, so that's available. I said, Shirley, is the American Wrestling Association available? The American Wrestling Association in Minnesota in 1996. She taps the computer. That's available. I'm like, I don't understand. I said, she's not stupid. I said, Shirley, how could Vern Gagne not have the American Wrestling Association registered in Minnesota? She's like, John, many people do a assumed name or doing business as. That doesn't mean they're registered. She's like, maybe Vern ran his company under a different name. I'm like, oh my God, he did. The Minneapolis Boxing and Wrestling Club. She puts it in. She's like, that's an assumed name. That's under Vern Gagne. I'm like, oh my God. I said, but you're telling me that I could put up a 12-story office building, and on top of the office building in Minneapolis, I can legally put a sign that says the American Wrestling Association. She's like, I'm telling you exactly. You have the legal right to do that. And all it will take is $50 in a quick fill out of the form, and you will have the legal right to use the name American Wrestling Association, AWA, and AWA hyphen American Wrestling Association. I said, surely I'll call. Yeah, right. I was shaking my head too. I call up Dale Gagne and I'm like, Dale, and I want to talk about the Dale Gagne last name because that's another bone of contention with me. I'm like, Dale, this is impossible. And Dale, being in the office, said, no, he ran it as the Minneapolis Boxing Wrestling Club, DBA, American Wrestling Association. He's like, you call her back, register AWA, register American Wrestling Association, and register All Star Wrestling. No problem. Now, Greg Gagne, Eric Bischoff all had a bone of contention. If Coca-Cola stops running a business, and I can now go to a state because I want to sell the formula Coca-Cola And Coca-Cola is not, I can get the name Coca-Cola in a state. Am I a good businessman for jumping on that opportunity, or am I a hack stealing someone's product? Give me a freaking break. So I registered, cost me $75 or $150. I had the paperwork. I faxed it to Nick Bockwinkel just to get his like. Nick called me back. He's like, I cannot believe Vern let this slip through his thing. Then we did a federal trademark search. Folks, this is all proven. This is all verified. I have all the documents. Vern did federally trademark American Wrestling Association, Major League of Pro Wrestling, but let it go dormant. He let it get let the trademark become dead, which means anyone could now grab it. Like an idiot, like an idiot, Dale and I didn't. Because if we did, Vince would have had to pay us six figures to get the name to sell the tapes and stuff. So trying to be a good businessman, trying to do it legal. I now, in Jon Stewart's name, had the right to run a business in the state of Minnesota, American Wrestling Association, AWA, and All Star Wrestling. This is a fact. I still have the paperwork. All done legal. Go ahead.
So that's a good point to start with, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I think that's something that the sheets and the coverage at the time all got wrong. It was presented that Dale and Jon Stewart were ripping off the AWA name and tisk tisk, right. And they never anywhere was any of this information presented.
No, of course it wasn't. So when Eric Bischoff and many others talked about Dave Meltzer, who was once a friend of mine, he still is, but and so is Wade Keller, a Minnesota guy. But to not pick up the phone and say, Jonnie, it's Dave Meltzer, you're getting lambasted. What's the truth? I would have faxed those Secretary of State filings, and Dave Meltzer would have said, sorry, folks, he's not doing anything illegal. He's the legal owner of this name. Now, I'm Jon Stewart. I've said this a million times. I always give you the other side of the coin. What is true that maybe was skirting the line of legality? Dale had some fetish with that shitty AWA logo from the 60s that I hated. And he put it on the website, awastars.com. And I'm like, I hate this logo. We made a new logo with like an Ultimate Warrior holding up his hands, spread eagle with the AWA. It was beautiful. I still have the artist renditions of it. But Dale was dead set using this AWA logo. Pictures of Vern, Crusher, and this and that. I didn't agree with that. Is that illegal? No. Is it keeping with the good nature of business ethics? No, it's not. Then I made that bone to Dale. I'm like, I hate this logo. It's going to get us in an issue. And more importantly, to all the marks out there, nobody knew the AWA when we sold shows. Do you think as somebody who was 35 years old in 1999 in Phoenix, really, because we did so much West Coast shows, I think they realized who Vern Gagne was and the impact of Vern was in the Midwest? They didn't. And so, and then we would run shows as, again, the bullshit that was in the sheets and among the internet marks. Very rarely did we run a sold show, which is all we've ever did, under AWA. Dale knew that nobody gave a shit about the AWA. Nobody knew the AWA, folks. It was dead 7 years prior. So Dale, like Vince McMahon, would come up with event names: Rumble on the Mound, Super Clash, War by the Shore, stuff like that people could identify with as the ice capades are coming to town. Dale Gagne's philosophy and my philosophy was, like Vince McMahon in a WrestleMania, make sure people in these medium-sized cities and towns think the ice capades are coming, the Academy Awards, pro wrestling's coming. Forget the names, forget the AWA, Vern Gagne. Oh my God, celebrities are coming to our town. And it worked. Dale Gagne's philosophy worked of a tagline, an event name, and one big notable star and the advertisement. Folks,
Mm.
all the rest is bullshit. It's bullshit. Can you find a couple out of the 50 shows we did in 12 years, 10 years? Could you find advertising for, the AWA? Of course it is. I owned the AWA. I owned the AWA. Owned it up until like 2018. Again, for anybody that wants to check, just go on the Minnesota Secretary of State. I owned the AWA. I could have done anything I want. I did not own that logo that was trademarked, but the trademark was dead. Okay. I just wanted to get all of that across. Okay. Eric Bischoff, I thought it was low of Jonnie, Stewart, and Dale to steal the AWA out of bankruptcy. The AWA didn't file bankruptcy. The Minneapolis Boxing and Wrestling Club at one point filed bankruptcy. They didn't wrestle. We didn't have a company called Minneapolis Boxing and Wrestling Club. I stole nothing out of bankruptcy. I registered a name that was never registered by the Gagne family. I want to repeat that. I registered 3 names that was never registered by the Gagne family. So that's the true, unvarnished 1000% story. And the only reason Vince McMahon and the WWF came after Dale was that shitty AWA logo on our website that the WWF trademarked and brought out of the dead status of the federal trademark search. So if you want to talk about scam artists and thieves, blame Vince McMahon for being able to go on the federal trademark and bring that logo out of a dead status of a federal trademark into it's called a live status. Then it's Vince, not me. And up until about 5 years ago, I had the legal right to call a business AWA, All Star Wrestling, in the American Wrestling Association. Those are the facts. So says the Minnesota Secretary of State.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for letting me share that.
yeah, that's very important to clarify because it puts a whole different spin on the rest of your story. But what about the Gagne family themselves? Because there was a narrative I remember reading, be it in the Observer or the Torch, that uh, you know Greg and others were upset with this, bastardization. I'm paraphrasing, but I can't remember. But bastardization of the AWA, was that factual, or where is the truth in that?
Let me address that. So the old members of the AWA, the old wrestlers were disgusted by what Jon Stewart legally did. Then why did Ken Patera hire me for his own independent wrestling organization as the AWA champion? Why did Ken Patera call me every day for a year as my friend and business associate? Why did Sheik Adnan work for Dale Gagne for 8 years? Why did Nick Bockwinkel work for Dale Gagne? Why did Jim Brunzell wrestle me 5 times for the AWA heavyweight title? Okay. Again, Jack, I hope you appreciate me right now. Did the old guard have a right to have a little bit of a rub that Dale was putting Burns' photo on our website with the old logo, kind of skirting the gray line of, is this Vern Gagne's territory again or not? Yes. Yes. And that was one of the bones of contention of Dale and I. Dale likes to poke the bear. That's his personality, and there's nothing you can do about it. Did the old AWA guard and Vern and Greg have a right to feel a little a little agitated by that? Absolutely. I'm sure nobody expected me to say that. Absolutely. And again, we had beautiful new AWA logos we did use, but on that freaking website, it was, Dale, and you got to understand something. Dale had amorous towards Vern and Greg. Vern and Greg, and I'll tell you the very quick story, whether you believe it or not, whether it's the truth or not. But this is what the story that I saw happen. Vern and Greg were refusing to take some smaller spot shows around the country when promoters called in because it wasn't advantageous enough for them, right? So here's Dale Gagne with Eric Bischoff, too, who said the same narrative. We're starving. We're not making any money. And people are calling in, not a lot, but people are calling in and saying, and when I have to tell them, it's not enough money to make it worth our while. And Dale said, John, I got so pissed off one day. It was a promoter. I still remember the name, City of Industry in California. And I had to call the guy back and say, it's not advantageous because Vern and Greg don't want to fly guys out there and whatnot. And Dale said, John, I just got pissed off. I knew I was doing something potentially not illegal, but not ethically business. And I didn't care if they were going to fire me. And Dale said, sir, I would like to promote or book the show. And the guy from the spot show promoter said, fantastic. Who can you get me? And Dale arranged, eight guys to fly out there in a ring and a local California ring and a couple of local guys and a referee. And Dale ran the show. And Vern and Greg got wind of it and fired Dale. And that's it. It's the story that, Dale was going behind their, he did. But it's like a car dealer saying, I know everyone's starving on the sales floor, but I don't want to take the deal on that Lexus. It's not enough money for us. Well, I have to buy groceries, and I'm not saying Dale was 100% ethical. But when you're starving and you're trying to buy groceries and make a car payment, things can be blurred. And so that's what Dale did. He basically didn't steal a show. He took a show that was cast to the side by Vern and Greg. I know this for a fact, and called the guy up and said, I'll do it. We call that in the car business curbing. The dealer doesn't want to pay you $4,000 for your car that you want to sell them. And the salesman comes out there and goes, meet me around the corner. I'll give you $4,000 and I'll sell it in my driveway. It's done all the time. Is it right? Probably not. But that's the reason why by Vern and Greg fired Dale. Has Dale, again, I'm not rolling over on one of my lifelong friends. Did Dale in the 9 years mention Greg or that he was a relative of Vern and Greg? Yes, of course, I'm sure to get to close a deal, if somebody knew Vern, Dale mentioned it. So I am looking you in the camera, and this is verified. Dale Gagne's father is this 5'5" guy that looks like a former pro golfer, very classy, gray hair. He was a manager of the iron mines in Minnesota, class act, very distinguished looking, just a straight shooter. And I remember at Dale's sister's wedding, his dad goes, I am a relative of the Gagne family. Gagner, the other version of Gagner is Gagne. And I am in Dale's dad. And I'm not splitting hairs here, but I think it's freaking important. And I'm going to finish this. That Dale Gagne's father said to me, matter of factly, that no, my cousin or my uncle was Vern's uncle, and Vern and I were second cousins. We were part of the Greg and Vern Gagne family. No matter if it's a shirt tail relative, Dale was right. How dare Dale steal the Gagne name? Do you want me to sit here for the next hour and talk about every famous name from Buddy Rogers to Landell to
Anderson.
Andersons to who are the Florida guys?
Grahams.
The Grahams. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? The names that have been stolen. Zbyszko. Larry Zbyszko stole one of the most famous, iconic names ever. Stanislaus Zbyszko. And your rub against Dale Gagne is that he calls himself Dale Gagne when everyone else steals names everywhere. Give me a fucking break. But, when you are successful and no one can figure it out, no one is willing to do and take time that a Sam DeCero from Windy City, a Dale Gagne from AWA Wrestling Superstars does or is doing, the easy way is he's a scam artist. Why? He's using the AWA name. John Stewart has a right to do that. Um, um, he's using Vern's last name, but everyone uses famous last names in wrestling. Instead of saying, "What are they doing? Let me mimic what they're doing." Again, I'm going to finish here. Why does no one talk from Jim Cornette to Dave Meltzer? Tell me why no one talks about the most successful, longest lasting independent wrestling organization in the history of America, Windy City Wrestling. And when you can tell me that answer, you're going to have the answer. Jealousy, jealousy, and hard work that you, the independent wrestling promoter, doesn't want to do. Period. End of conversation.
Yeah, I think those are those are very salient points, and especially the part about Windy City and AWA Superstars, the level of business which we'll get into
Thank
based
you.
on the stars that were involved. Obviously,
Yeah.
it was very successful given
Yes.
the names, and you know what? I think a lot of the old school AWA guys such as Patera, Brunzel, Bockwinkel, etc. They probably didn't have as much of an axe to grind as one would think, because it would be seen, at least from the fan conception, as carrying on that tradition, which was a good thing. The only
Right.
people that didn't seem to like it were the critics, so to speak. It seemed.
Exactly. And again, I'm not saying that we poked the Gagne family. I did, but Dale did, and even me one time. I think at Super Clash, this is a God's honest true story. I mentioned Vern's name at a press conference, and Dale, after the press conference, ripped me a new asshole. Like, it's like, don't involve Vern's name. Vern's not, But so Dale was cognizant of, let's not poke it too much. If the association can help us in business, he's going to use it. I mean, folks, business is business. But so again, I hope everyone appreciates. I'm not saying that we didn't, that there wasn't trying a little bit of an allusion to the Gagne family. There was, and that was probably not correct and not right. And God, I'm telling you, that freaking logo, I hated the logo. We should have used it on our website and made a correlation back to the old Gagne name. So for that, it's not my fault, but I will apologize to anybody that took the brunt of that. Other than that, taking all the old AWA talent, giving them nice contracts, great paydays, beautiful hotel rooms, top flight airline tickets, treated like stars. I can't be prouder.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that logo. I can understand how you would feel it would be
Oh my God.
a negative, but man, I
Yeah,
have very very fond memories of the original
I
AWA,
know.
especially the opening on the ESPN
Right.
programming, which
Yeah.
focused on that logo. So I could
Yeah.
understand why he would be tempted to use that
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
In terms of I think when we get to the part where we go through some of these legends, I think if you just talked about I know in our previous interview you talked about The Rock and that scene that was
Yeah.
in terms of fans and success, but some of your bigger I know you ran 50 some odd shows, so just
Correct.
to give the fans an idea of some of the big events that you ran, just so they get a scale that this
Yeah.
isn't just your
Thank you.
typical indie.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll just start going down. It's going to sound like a brag list, but it is. Our biggest day, we hired The Rock. I'm going to repeat that. We hired The Rock, $32,500. Still to this day, the largest single payday in an independent wrestling organization. According to the Brooklyn fire chief, 8,500, a fair guesstimate, 8,500 people showed up and were wrapped around a neighborhood in Brooklyn to get an autograph from The Rock at a Bally's grand opening. Rock, 32,500. Delaware State Fair, Sergeant Slaughter, Jerry Lawler, George Steele, Duggan, Brian Christopher, the Nitro Girls, the Nitro Singers. There was about 4,800 people there. I remember looking at Sergeant Slaughter across the ring, and it was a weird moment in the riser of the stands. Just, I mean, there was just a wave of people. It was unbelievable. We wrestled in the Greeley Stampede Stadium, 16,000 outdoor horseshoe-shaped stadium. We had around 5,100 people. Justin Roberts, WWE, AEW announcer, by the way, who can verify all of my stories. He was there. We just couldn't believe it. It was awesome. Slaughter, George Steele was on that show. We had the Red Rock State Park in California. China, Jerry Lawler, a huge show. We were like in the 4,000 people. Fresno, California, an outdoor show in a casino with the Road Warriors, Tito Santana. I don't think there was a Spanish person who was home in Fresno, California. The city was actually called Lenmore, California. They got canceled because of rain, but all the stars were there. We got paid. They brought us back 6 weeks later. So it was like a teaser. I wrestled Tito Santana on top. Tito in the ring was like, this ain't your grandma's independent wrestling show. One of the things we're most proud of, because the ECW went in 2 months later. Pine Bluff, Arkansas, the Pine Bluff Civic Center, the famous night where Jimmy Snuka confessed or told me what happened with his girlfriend, Nancy Argentina. 5,700 people. I mean, and change. It was unbelievable. It was an advertising executive out of Little Rock that was the local promoter and promoted it like Vince McMahon was coming. Terry Funk was supposed to be on the show. He didn't show up, or he couldn't show up. And people were like, "Oh, they promoted Terry Funk, and that's why 5,700 people showed up." I love Terry, but no, that's you know. And Paul Heyman in ECW went in 2 months later. They drew 1,600 people, and we had a hot show. And I'll tell you who brought in 5,700 people. It was Vampiro, and we put Vampiro on like we do put him on the billboard. He was red hot with WCW. He was legally allowed to sign autographs. He was so excited about the crowd and said to us, Eric Bischoff hasn't had a crowd this size in a year. Can I wrestle Jonnie? Me. And he wrestled me, and WCW fined him $5,000 for wrestling me. He was so excited. Vampiro, a great guy, by the way.
Mhm.
So excited to work in that big of a crowd that he had to pay $5,000 later on to wrestle little old Johnny Stewart. And we did a hardcore, around the arena. It was, I'm not saying it was the greatest match, but it was, the people were just screaming, and he was so over. That's who drew 5,800 people. And when you put his face on the poster all by himself, I think that's why they came there. I told you this before. If we had a show of 1,800 people, the boys would be upset in the locker room, like, oh, this is a small show. There's the famous story that Adrian Lynch, the British indie wrestler from the Midwest, tells the story. A local Colorado worker and his opponent walk into the Greeley Stampede Arena Stadium. It looks like a college football stadium with the concrete risers, and they break open the door. They see, all these people in cars, and I'm bragging here. Two indie wrestlers used to 80 people on a wrestling show at a bingo hall break open the door. There's Sergeant Slaughter eating a sandwich from catering. George the Animal Steel is reading a local newspaper. Justin Roberts is going through CDs. And the two local Colorado guys ask Sergeant Slaughter, where is everybody? And Sarge goes, this is it. And they're like, wait, what? And Sergeant's like, yeah, most of the guys work 2 times, once in a mask or once as themselves, or this is the AWA. And they were stupefied that literally 7 guys, literally, we would have cards with a ref, two local guys and then 7 other wrestlers at the most of the time, because we weren't marks. We made everybody work twice except for George Steele or Slaughter, or Duggan or whatnot. And they were just absolutely stupefied. And it's just a charming story of like, how can you draw 5,700 people, 5,400 people with 7 guys, and everybody is real calm in the locker room because we've been doing this for 3 years and drawing these kind of crowds. When I gave the belt to King Kong Bundy, Paul Farina, University of Wisconsin Oshkosh, there was 3,400 people there. Same thing. Two Wisconsin local. Now you have to understand, the Wisconsin state troopers are out there. There are barricades and flashing lights, and they've never had a crowd this size, even for hockey in this arena. And they've got 3,500 people that they never expected. There's traffic and cars and students filing in. And these two local Wisconsin, and they go to Adrian Lynch, they go to Dale Gagne. Where's everybody? And Bundy's sitting there, and he's checking his teeth, and Jonnie Stewart's there going through merch. We didn't have it, we were very smart about it. And I am so proud of that. I am so proud that other than a issue with a bond, an insurance bond on the belt, that Dale strung a guy along a little bit too long. I think his name was Rick Converse. That was resolved. Other than that, and the bullshit King Kong Bundy, you owe me $210, or he owes me $210. Other than that, we never had one pay issue in 52 shows for Dale Gagne. Can you say that about Paul Heyman? Never once. I never once asked anybody to use their own money without reimbursing them. When I ran my only show in Racine, a couple of the local guys said, "Oh, I thought Johnny said it was $150. I was PayPaling these people immediately. We prided ourselves in good payoffs, correct payoffs. I saw Dale Gagne tip young guys constantly. All the stars had upgraded hotel suites when possible. Nobody had to look for a ride. We picked guys up, treated all the old timers and stars like they have been treated. Turn the house lights off, because this is theater, folks. Do you leave the theater lights on when Phantom of the Opera comes on? No. The biggest cardinal sin still to this day is these indie promotions leave the lights on. So you got all these young guys who never were flown anywhere, still to this day. Dale flew them, stars, treated like stars, contracts paid, huge merchandise. I'm telling you something, Honky Tonk Man made so much money on our shows in the 5-6 years that he probably could have bought himself a nice new Chevy, if he would have saved all just his merchandise money. And I'm very proud of that. And you can't take that away from Dale. And these are just a couple of shows that I highlighted. And again, to have the largest single payday ever in the history of the wrestling business, Dale Gagne. It's just that simple.
So, given the fact that this is blockbuster, certainly tremendous blockbuster business for indie wrestling now, but same as back then. I mean, we'd be jumping up and down if we drew 1,200 actually. But all that being said, was it? You were a success. You were drawing. You were doing well financially. But did it ever bother you that the whole wrestling world wasn't talking about that company the way that they were talking about, say, ECW, for example, and they didn't draw that consistently, even close? Did that discrepancy ever get to you? And the fact that now, a lot of fans don't know about such a successful entity.
No, it didn't bother Dale, and I am telling you that the truth. I wanted to shake him and freaking bash him on the head some days when he could care less about the internet marks. It made me nuts. Jack, you're my friend. I'm looking you in the eye. It made me nuts. I have always had a problem where I have been maligned in my life. I'm not getting personal here. I was all conference, all area. Just let me bloviate here. I was all conference, all area, all city, all suburban, all state honorable mention. Went to D1 school, played Division III, played in semi-pro, both ways, Iron Man. There are still people in Chicago that say, "Oh, John Stewart wasn't that good of a football player." So I don't know what it is. I have always been maligned, like not getting the credit, and it made me nuts. And I am telling you, credit to Dale Gagne. We had three opportunities to possibly, I'm not saying firm deals, to possibly go on TV. I remember Dale all three times saying, look what it's doing to Paul Heyman. Look what it's doing to ECW. They are chasing their tails. They never play catch up. Dale goes, John, it's going to ruin your family business. It's going to ruin your family. All we're going to be doing is writing TV, fighting over TV, paying money to have TV on the air eventually once the deal runs out. And Dale Gagne was fortuitous enough, I swear to God, the unmarked, the low level of markedness, internet markedness, and Dale Gagne was awe-inspiring. Dale's like, we're not doing it. It's going to make us nuts. It's going to ruin our lives. He's like, John, this is a country club. Once, twice a weekend, we're going to these nice little cities. And Dale Gagne would talk like Larry Zabisco. I'm serious. And Dale was like, we're going to these nice little cities. And we have a nice little show. And I get to take Johnny Stewart out for a steak dinner. And we go back to our room at 11 o'clock. And Johnny Stewart gets naked and watches documentaries. And little Dale Gagne gets in his bed and goes on his laptop. And I'm like, he's right. He's right. We were like the country club of the independent wrestling circuit. Paul Dangerously was like the ECW was like, was like a punk rock strip bar. It was just insanity. And again, I cannot compliment Dale enough. His promotional materials, but his level of markedness was in the basement. He refused to go on TV. And I remember there was one guy from Florida, a money guy, very sharp. I'm going to put you boys on TV. And Dale's like, no, you're not, to him. Dale's like, no. He's like, John, I know this was where we're going. It's going to make us crazy. It's not going to produce anything. And he kept saying, look at ECW. Paul's not getting paid on the pay-per-views. The Sunshine Network, what is it drawing him? Other than locally in that arena at the bingo hall, and he was right. And because of that, we didn't make wrestlers put $30,000 on their credit card, as Chris Candido told me to my face. I have $30,000 in credit card debt, as Rhino told me, as what's his name? Oh God. His
Bradshaw?
name, no, his name rhymed. Stealing, dealing, Martin. Oh God, I can't think of it. It's like Dean Martin, but it was like anyway, it rhymed. He was an ECW wrestler. He's like, this is like working for Vince. This is such a night off. These nice arenas. We When we could, we put towels out and little soaps for the guys in the locker room. Dale always had catering. Always, 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 always. Our last show at at a AAA baseball stadium outside of Cooperstown, New York. Mick Foley was the autograph signing. We had the Spirit Crew. I think there was like 2,900 people. And at the end, everyone walks back into the locker room. Dale Gagne. Everybody walks into the back of the locker room, and the door opens, and there are 7 people in tuxedo shirts and bow ties in front of stainless steel chafing dishes. They open up the chafing dish, and Dale has catered in a steak dinner for everybody on the card. Mick Foley's smile was from ear to ear, and he's like, "This is Dale." That's what should be remembered. Not that we used a fake Ultimate Warrior or a fake logo that, like Dale Gagne would say, here's who's in the sneezy and dopey costume at the Disney Ice Capades. I mean, yes, okay, maybe to the mark, John Penta was important to be there. But to satisfy some of the local promoters who wanted a WrestleMania card for $7,000, you had to use fake characters. And when you look at it now, what do they have? 7 doinks now? Fried kimchi's. I was one of them. Vince, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. that people were mad at Dale for using a fake Golga or a fake Doink. We had one fake Doink. We called him Krusty the Clown. He was from like New Jersey. Playboy, um, uh, Playboy Buddy something, whatever. He is looking, folks. You want to talk about cuckoo land? He is looking out the curtain as the fake Doink in the costume, looking at a fake Golga, going, "You guys are in so much trouble." And Dale Gagne goes, "You should probably look in the fucking mirror, fake Doink. You're in trouble too." Then, so I'll finish it up. We booked Sergeant Slaughter and Honky Tonk were our mainstays. Sergeant Slaughter was actively working for Vince every step of the way with the AWA. Sergeant Slaughter was taking bookings for Dale. I swear on my life that 2 or 3 times, Sarge was in the airport terminal before the WWF jet, sitting with Vince. I heard him on speakerphone go to Vince, "Can I work for Dale Gagne, AWA, on May 2nd? I don't have a booking for you that day." And Vince McMahon in the background going, "Yeah, no problem, as long as you're not booked for us. All right, Johnny," or "All right, Dale, go ahead and book us." I mean, oh, Vince wouldn't, Vince could care freaking less that Dale Gagne was drawing 3,500 people using a fake, you know, uh, demolition guy. Or come on. I mean, come on, grow the frick up. And again, our biggest star was Sergeant Slaughter, who was actively working for Vince. And the only times that guys couldn't show up at times was when either they were drunk, didn't feel like showing up, or the WWF screwed us. Notably, the biggest thing with Kane, who was supposed to be at the Jackson, Michigan Fair. I was told that day he can't make it. We hired Dan Severin. We told the fair promoter. Justin Roberts made the announcement. We gave back 102 tickets out of 2,900 people. What are you going to do? So when I use that as an example. So we knew. I'm sorry, I misspoke there. We knew a week ahead of time Kane wasn't going to be there. Did I tell the local fair lady? No, I didn't. I was going to tell her the day of the show. So what do you tell me when Vince McMahon knew 10 days prior Stone Cold was not going to show up, whatever that pay-per-view was, and Vince McMahon told no one except for the day of the show that Stone Cold wasn't going to be there? Is Vince McMahon as much of a scumbag as Dale Gagne? Maybe they are. Am I a scumbag for waiting for the night of the show to tell the fair board? Did we do the right thing to make the announcement before the show started? Yes. Did we give money back? Yes. What did the other people in the stands do? They didn't care. Kane, they wanted to see a wrestling event. So all this
And Dan
bullshit.
Severn's suitable replacement.
Yeah, exactly. Dan Severin. All this bullshit from the internet, Marks, trying to draw us into this cesspool, and Dale just wouldn't bite. And when you hear Slaughter, our main star, communicating with Vince about working for Dale, I was there. I heard the speakerphone. I heard Vince go, "As long as you're not booked for us, I don't care." You people are just crazy, pointless. Do you have a justifiable grudge for a fake Golga, a fake Doink, a fake
No.
Ultimate Warrior? I don't know. That's up for you. I don't really give a shit.
No, and I mean, before we get to some of the names, I think it's interesting that you resisted that, or Dale did, resisted the temptation to go to TV, because you're 100% right. That chase of national television that ECW did ultimately brought their downfall, and
Oh my God.
Todd Gordon is a friend of mine. Spoke to him today. He, if you read his book, you see that he was looking at local coverage. Philly was a sort of a different deal, but that all encompassing pursuit to go national really killed him. So that's, I would say, I can't think of another promoter off the top of my head besides Dale that had that perspective. So good for him.
Yeah, right. Anybody that sees Dale Gagne ever anywhere, you got to throw rose petals down at his feet for having the foresight, but for having control, because Dale's got an ego, but having control of that ego when you've got a money man, and I remember this guy, there was three of them, but this guy specifically in Florida was ready to write the check. And Dale said, you know, because we weren't going to be making 3-4 grand a week. It was going to be, break even, get some advertising revenue for what? So I can make myself crazy and hate Dale in the end of the process and ruin
Mm,
everything? No way.
mm,
And
mm.
I can't honor Dale's legacy as a promoter more. And I'm glad you bring that up than saying no to TV.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go through some of these names you've
Okay.
touched on some of them, but wow, I had no clue about a few others. Starting with China.
Yeah. China. Dale Gagne. Oh, you son of a bitch. I think this should be one of the funniest stories in wrestling. Not because Jon Stewart's involved. Dale goes, China's kind of really stiff with the negotiations. And she wants to get paid $800 extra just for a personal appearance and a couple of autographs. Dale's like, we can't afford that. Jonnie, when you pick her up in Phoenix to take her to the Red Rock Arena, State Park Arena in California, stop at this certain truck stop, which was beautiful. Stop at this certain truck stop, go inside with her, tell her you want to get a milkshake or some gum. And the fans will see her and will kind of solve that contractual obligation of having Jerry Lawler, Jimmy Hart in China. She walks in and everybody turns around. They're like, and they storm up to her, and she knows that I played her, and she is livid. Jerry Lawler comes to the rescue. Jerry Lawler comes to little Johnny Stewart's rescue and knows the gimmick and tells her to the side, see, she's pissed off. And she's like, they made me come here to sign. And Jerry goes, no, you weren't on the poster for this autograph session. She's like, oh. And China turned to me as we were walking out. I said, excuse me. You said you had to use the bathroom. This is my promotion. I had to check to see if Lawler and Jimmy Hart showed up and my associate producer Lee Amber were there. I'm sorry if you think I hoodwinked you. This was kind of bullshit, but it was true. And because Jerry Lawler basically told her the same thing, China was down, but she was in the car. She had this Pocahontas outfit on. Can you imagine the tension in the car? She's like, don't ever do that to me again. And she must have felt bad because she bought me Taco Bell when we stopped. And then she texted X-Pac, and Sean was like, oh, Johnny Stewart. Oh, I love him. Tell him I said hi. And she must be like, oh, okay, Johnny's a pretty cool guy. But I refused to give her a ride back. But I like Joni. It really did. Very beautiful young lady, great body. She again, Red Rock, I think we had in the 4,000s. Did Jerry Lawler draw that much? I don't think so. Do I think China being in the autograph session drew that much? I think it was China. So sad for what happened to her. There
Mm.
is a woman, a wrestler that, like Jim Cornette said, the industry spit up, chewed out, and left her on the side of the road, and it's sad. I like Joni. I really did.
Yeah, everybody that worked with her seemed to have that same sort of an assessment, and definitely
Yeah,
a tragedy,
yeah,
tragic case.
yeah.
Roddy Piper.
Pipe. You want me to be honest, right? Okay. Well, Rowdy changed my life, and I will tell you that. But when he worked for us, we had a contractual obligation once a year, the Pinal County Fair, Casa Grande, Arizona. We hire Piper for a show, and he doesn't want to get out of his hotel room to drive to the show because he wants his gimmicks. And Dale gets on the phone and says, if you want to get paid, you better show up. We don't have any gimmicks for you. You'll have to worry about that after we pay you and after you show up. And this is bullshit. And we got him in the car. We got him in the car. He showed up. He did a great job. The crowd popped. And I tried to use him in that Wrestling Rescue documentary reality show. And here is one of the most famous wrestlers ever, one of the best talents ever, a bona fide movie star. He is calling a used car dealer at the time, part time wrestler, twice a week to What's going on with with the reality show? What's going on? What's going on? And Rowdy changed my life. Like, if somebody of his stature can lower his pride and pick up the phone and call a nobody like me twice a week for a month straight, I said to myself, shit, this is what I should have been doing in the wrestling business. And I always use that in the automobile business and other ventures. And Rowdy Piper changed my life and showed me, I don't care who you are. You need to work the phone, keep in touch, work that phone, keep in touch. Hot Rod, I love him. He had the coolest agent in the world, a guy named um, uh, Jan Schechter, coolest guy in the world. I loved Rowdy Piper, and Rowdy and I looked at each other for the first time backstage, and we just smiled at each other. We clicked immediately, which I did with a lot of the old guys. And him and I had a great match. Like, I mean, come on, I wrestled Rowdy Piper. I mean, come
Mm,
on, and it was
mm.
great. I wore a kilt in the ring and the Hot Rod T-shirt. You know, to pretend like I was the Rowdy Piper. It was great. So a little hiccup. We got him to the matches, and he taught me a life lesson that I still use today.
Yeah, I could see you guys clicking quite a
Yeah,
bit. What
yeah.
what about one of my favorites from the old AWA, a bona fide legend, such a great communicator, a great athlete, all around class act. So I just happened to see a bit of a shoot interview with him today, and I thought, man, what a loss. They don't make him like Nick Bockwinkel anymore.
Are you talking about the parts of the shoot interview that are playing recently this week?
Yeah,
Right?
by I think it's title match that are about a 2003 interview with Nick Bockwinkel, if memory
La-
serves me correctly.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen to Jack. Listen to your little friend Jonnie Stewart. Go watch these experts. Nick Bockwinkel lays down the truth like you will not believe. It's unbelievable. Stan Hansen, Brody, Nick Bockwinkel eviscerates King Kong Brody. You
Mm,
have to watch it. Um,
mm.
how he had the Jonnie Stewart beginning, where he went to college to play football. Things went awry. He stayed at UCLA, started wrestling, was still in college, just like I did. I'm not saying I'm Nick Bockwinkel. I mean, it was his wrestling in Southern California in the 50s. I mean, come on. And I remember Nick telling me how great it was. Oh, it was just great to have Nick on shows. He was such a class act. I loved him. He liked me. My biggest honor in life, other than wrestling Sergeant Slaughter on the ESPN main event when he was doing Diet Coke commercials, was Nick telling Bill Apter on TV that he thought the next superstar in wrestling would be illustrious Johnny Stewart, although that didn't happen. One of the greatest moments of my life. I love Nick. Gone too soon. Ladies and gentlemen, go to title match. Watch the excerpts of Nick Bockwinkel's interview. Your jaw will drop to the floor. This guy, for the first time, pulls no punches.
Yeah, and how about the fact that he really, in a lot of ways, at what 50, made Kurt Hennig with that 1 hour deal that they had in Las Vegas. When I
Yes.
when
Yeah.
later on, when you have more of an appreciation, it just makes you shake your
Huge.
head how good he was.
Yeah. And he alluded to something, and I think he's right. Another botch, Vince. And I'm not Monday morning quarterback Vince at all, Vince McMahon. But when Vern's full time schedule stopped in, let's say, I think 88, Vince should have put Nick, if he wrestled, right after Kurt Hennig, he should have put Nick Bockwinkel and Hogan on top in Minneapolis
Yeah.
as a kind of a legacy, retirement match. Nick could have used a $50,000 payday. It was sad, not sad. Nick, and I'll give personal information here. Nick retired with $150,000 in the bank. Not what you would think. In 1988, you would think Nick would have 500, 600 grand, but Nick made a consistent 150 grand from Vern, no matter what, and extra money from Bosch and Memphis and Japan. Um, but Nick always said he could have used one more run with Vince. But yeah, only retired with 150 grand in the bank. It's a shame.
And my goodness, with what Vince did after raiding the AWA, you would think that would have been
Right.
an absolute
Right.
no brainer.
Yeah,
Uh,
that would have sold out the Target Center in 10 seconds.
they could have done a three-peat.
Yeah.
You mentioned in some of your comments that you had a story with respect to AWA superstars with CM Punk, a man who's no stranger to controversy, of course.
Oh my God. Dale Gagne goes, I'm in the back of the Stewart family car dealership I mean, you think I'm not telling you the truth? On a fax machine phone. You know, the fax machine you could also use as a phone because there were actually 3 salesmen doing sales calls. My dad was on the 4th line. So I had to use the fax. Dale goes, uh, call up this local kid, CM Punk. We're going to use him for the Lincolnshire, Illinois show. You know, get his information. Why? So we could send him a day of contract, right? Like we do everybody. This is the shoot. Phil answers the phone, real, real muddled and cocky. And, I love Phil because we talked a couple of times as he was getting his start with Vince. And I do. I love him. Uh, I'm like, yeah, so I'm going to need your legal name for the contract and your address. We will email it to you and we will send you the hard copy. Either one, please sign and either fax back an email back to Dale Gagne or myself. Both fax numbers and emails and addresses are on the bottom of your contract. And he's like, well, there's a problem. What opening match guy? What is the problem? You know, I don't know. It's not CM Punk, Vince McMahon. He's fucking Phil Brooks. Well, I only go by CM Punk. Now, Johnny Stewart, that doesn't know who CM Punk is it's now the blood pressure. I'm like, what do you mean? Your legal name is CM Punk? I said, are you Ultimate Warrior? You change your name? He's like, no, I only want to go by CM Punk. I said, well, Phil, because I knew his name was Phil. Phil, let me ask you a question. When you and Dale have a problem, and this goes into Circuit Court of Cook County, Illinois, for arbitration, because that's what we had in our contract. There was a problem, we would be in arbitration. The judge is going to ask you your legal name. Are you going to keep going by CM Punk to skirt the legality of the law? Or are you going to tell the circuit court judge that your name is Phil, whatever your last name is? I didn't even know his last name. I said, I can't put your work name on the contract. He's like, well, all right, well, it's Phil Brooks, but I'm really against this. I hang up the phone. And Dale when somebody says in front of Dale and I, Johnny Stewart, CM Punk, Dale would go, I call up Dale. And Dale would know it was me calling, but he'd still answer because he's a prick. This is Dale. And I go, it's CM Punk. And I slammed the door. He calls me back and he's like, what happened? I said, who is this fucking kid? He won't give me his legal name because he fucking wants to be called CM Punk in legal proceedings. What's going on here? I don't need this. So every time CM Punk is mentioned in front of Dale and me, and I'm in Dale's perimeter, Dale goes, who the fuck is CM Punk? You know, I'll be honest. He was skinny. He wore the John Cena jeans or the long athletic shorts. I'm like, the fuck is this kid? But you want to talk about right time, right place. When he was handed the ball, other than Kevin Nash and Rick Scott Steiner, CM Punk, top 3 all time, number 1 best slight shoot promos in the history of the wrestling business.
Yeah.
Rick Steiner, CM Punk, got Kevin Nash, and got his body up. I'm sorry, the greatest fluid worker in the planet, but one hell of a good freaking worker. Had the high maneuver act along with wrestling ability, which was great. Wasn't awesome at either, but really, really good at either. Mic skills, look, the fuck you, I don't care, anti establishment personality, which was Phil's personality. What do all the old timers say? Who are you? Use who you are as a hybrid. Or is everyone listening to me? Use who you are as a hybrid of your character in wrestling. And Phil used this anti-establishment. I don't give a shit what you do with me. I'm going to speak my mind. And he's a cajillionaire now. You're
Mm,
a cajillionaire now because he stuck to old school tenets of this is my personality. I'm doing it my way. Katie bar the door. God, did I just say that? To hell with who thinks about what. And it made him a multi-millionaire and a legend in the business and still one of the best workers in the past 20 years. CM Punk, Phil Brooks, I love you, kid. I remember when he got his first big contract, I sent him a very kind text. Same text I sent Nick Nemeth and Justin Roberts. Try and stay beneath Vince's radar screen, which he didn't. And I said, save every fucking dime. And he wrote
mm,
back, you got it.
mhm,
So,
mhm.
and I'm not
And
saying like, oh, I made CM Punk rich, but I was proud to tell him, hey, save every dime. And I think he has. So
mhm.
I love
and
it. I love it. So
A-
excited for him.
AEW has never been the same
Never
since
been the
he left.
same.
Never been the same. These two names jumped out at me being an old school fan. The fabulous Moolah and Mae Young.
People find me funny, Jack. I think I'm kind of funny because
Absolutely.
I am the George Costanza of wrestling, and I am naive. I am not that. I'm a historian, but I'm not that smart sometimes. So it is a show in San Antonio, Texas, pretty big outdoor show in a covered pavilion. Okay, so Dale FedExes me the show. It's all the contracts. It was a binder. Everyone's 1 day contract. The lineup, who the local promoter is, everyone's airline ticket, who the ring guy is, local talent, numbers, hotel, you name it. I'm going like this. I'm like Ace Steel and Danny Dominion versus Moolah and Mae Young. And I put it down. I'm on the airplane like this. I picked it back up. I'm like, well, this must be an interview session, an interview in the ring, which we did a lot of. We get to the show, Jack. I mean, if I don't make people laugh now, then I quit. Johnny Stewart walks through the locker room. I see Mae Young, who is 79 years old, and Moolah, who's 80. They're nylons and singlets on. I see the boots up. And I do as I'm walking. I walk into the heel locker room, and I go up to Ace Steel. I'm like, what is going on? He's like, what? I'm like, he goes, I brought all my gimmicks, Shark Boy and all this, Conquistador, all the Ace Steel gimmicks. I'm like, I mean, with Moulin May Young, why are they getting dressed for an interview? And Danny Dominion goes, no. We went over the match already. And I'm like this. You went over a what? He goes, a match. I said, you're fucking having a match with 80-year-old women? And Ace Steel's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, fuck. I got to see this one. You barn burner? Knock the fucking roof off. These two 80-year-old women knocked the fucking place down. Ace Steel and Danny Dominion. It has to be one of their best matches ever. They were doing the bucking bronco on Ace Steel in the corner. Jack, the fucking place was out of their mind. They're doing suplexes, body slams. What's the Sam Houston? Where he's got a
Bulldog?
choke. The what?
The Bulldog?
The bulldog. They're doing the bulldog on each other. Mae Young takes one. Danny Dominion. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was a match like they were wrestling the Bushwhackers. It was they come back in the locker room. Let's make them go. What? I'm like George Costanza, stupefied. I go up to Mule and she goes, how'd that go? Sexy? That good enough? Good. All right, good. Thanks for having us. And the whole time in my hotel room, I got my little blanket in my hands, and I'm looking at the ceiling, going, I did. It was make believe. I didn't witness that. That's impossible. My grandmother getting the shit beat out of them by Ace Steel, and the place going absolutely out of their mind. I'm not lying. They blew the freaking roof off the place. Two 80-year-old
I bet.
women, Ace Steel, Danny Dominion. I mean, hello.
Is that on tape anywhere?
I don't know. I mean, but
I'd
even
love to see that.
Justin Roberts, can verify every story, was like this at ringside. Like what? It was in the curtain going, I don't believe what I'm watching. It's unbelievable. Ace Steel, I love you, kid. Danny Dominion, oh, the best. That whole
That
Adam Pierce, CM Punk, Ace Steel, Danny Dominion, folks. Adam Pierce is one of the nicest kids, young men. He's still I still consider him a younger brother of mine. One of the nicest guys ever. I'm so proud of him, Ace, CM Punk. I am. Justin Roberts. These were my younger brothers. That was so proud. So proud of what they've done, what they've come to. And when you say nice guys don't finish first in the wrestling business, bullshit. Because Justin Roberts, Ace Steel, and Adam Pierce, and CM Punk are just great guys. I really mean that, and I can't be
that,
happier.
that whole Windy City crew, correct?
Yeah. Well, they weren't Windy City for Sam DeCiro. They were all from Chicago, but
Chicago.
wrestled mostly together for Ed Hellier Steel Domain Wrestling in
Oh yeah.
Minneapolis. So yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. What about a guy you've touched on him earlier, but we had him up for Great North
You
Wrestling
see me
so
still
many times.
smiling about those guys? I can't.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. They just put a smile on my face because they did and doing so goddamn well. So I'm sorry.
it's nice to see
It
that
is. Yeah.
payoff.
Yeah.
We had him up for Great North Wrestling a number of times. Great personality, honky tonk man. You
Oh
said
my God.
that he made a lot of money working for you guys. I'm sure you have some interesting reminiscence.
I'm telling you the truth, folks. When Dale Gagne didn't really need another name because Honky didn't draw that much. Sam DeCiro warned me, like, Honky, he named all the names. He goes, don't waste your money. They don't draw. Lawler draws, and that's about it. But you had to satisfy the local promoter. Jack, am I making sense?
Yeah.
So the local promoter's like, I'm putting up 20 grand. This guy was new wrestling in the 70s, 80s, you had to give him Slaughter. You had to give him a Hacksaw Duggan. Even though they wouldn't draw, it was satisfy the local promoter. And Honky Tonk was one of those people that satisfied the wants and needs in the memory of a local promoter. I am telling you that even when we didn't need Honky, Dale hired Honky because of he was like an Iron Sheik. The morale, the stories, the hysterical nature of Honky Tonk, his stories in the locker room were just for Dale and I traveling with them. Were nonstop. I mean, nonstop. I mean, you put a quarter in Honky Tonk, man, he'd go for 3 hours. I still imitate Honky to this day to my wife. I mean, that fucking piece of shit down the street, and he got the business. He could tell you the insights of the business. I have so many more stories Honky told us that he's never told on shoot interviews. I won't get into, and I'm not saying ha ha. I just mean like he was just a jukebox full of wrestling stories. I loved Honky. He never, ever, ever, ever called me by my name. He was so old school that he referred to me as Kimchi because most of the time I would wrestle Honky as the WWF Kamala handler Kimchi. So, it'd always be, he'd pop his head in the locker room. Come on, Kimchi, we got to get to the airport. Come on, you fucker. You got my red velvet? That's the kind of whiskey. If you see Honky Tonk, get him a pint of red velvet. I don't think he drinks anymore, but that was his favorite. And he made nothing but cold cash for with Dale. And it was nice. It was nice to see bitter old wrestlers. I'm not naming names. Come to Dale, see this contract, beautiful payday, get paid before they get to the ring most of the time, a nice hotel room, somebody waiting at the airport. You want to piss a wrestler off, fuck
Yeah.
up somebody picking him up at the airport, somebody waiting him at the airport, whether it was me or the local producer. The hotel room, they would go to the front desk. I'm Sergeant Slaughter. No check-in usually. Everything done. Hand him the key card. When is Johnny Stewart going to call me to go down to the lobby? 6 o'clock. John Stewart calls at 6 o'clock. A beautiful 3,000 seat arena, selling out their gimmicks. Later on that night, Dale buying everybody a dinner at the hotel restaurant. Am I setting the atmosphere up to see Greg Valentine happy? Has anybody ever seen Greg Valentine happy? To see
No.
Joe Laurinaitis, Road Warrior Animal, happy. Road Warrior Hawk, I've never seen him happy. He would do like the tippy two step working for Dale because it was such a night off and made money, and everybody worked Johnny Stewart. So they knew they weren't going to get beat up. They knew it was going to go easy in the match and walk and talk. And I am proud of that. I'm proud of what Dale did for all of these old stars, how he treated them, and how happy they were the days of the events to work for us. And I wanted to get that across.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like a more than healthy organization, which
It
will
was,
tie into
yeah.
the
Okay.
last question that I want to ask you before I hit you with one more name. And you touched on him liking steak already, but that's Mankind, Mick Foley, Cactus Jack.
Yeah, we used Mick twice. We used a fake. We didn't actually use him in Laughlin, Nevada, and people were a little pissed. We just couldn't work it out with him and the WWF. Again, you'd call the WWF booking office. Hi, this is John Stewart from the AWA. Does anybody even realize this? All the marks. We would call the WWF. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, he's free. Okay, send us the contract. $2,500. We're going to keep. I think they kept 15% at the time. I don't think they told the boys that. And then you get a call 15 days out from the show. Hey, sorry, Mankind's booked. We have to fill him in for an autograph session. You know, a Triple H can't show up. This guy's hurt. We need to fill him in. Sorry, John. Can you give us somebody else? No. Call us next time. I mean, that happened 3 or 4 times. Am I lying? No, I'm not. Even Bruce Pritchard, when I hired him for the reality show, said, "Yeah, I remember a couple times we fucked you guys." You know, that they would just, hey, it's the nature of the beast. So, but Mick, I had Mick Foley, I believe, 3 times. Worked for us. He worked for our last ever show again out of Cooperstown, and he saw, that steak dinner and a gentleman, no bullshit, show up on time, do what he was told. I love Mick. I'm sorry that he's in the skeletal problem of his body. I'm sure he knows he's paying a price for what he did, but everything has consequences, and just a great guy, and a credit to the wrestling business, and a good person, a good human being, which I appreciate.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here tonight, John. That really needed to be covered, and hopefully, this will raise the awareness of fans that for reasons that we've discussed, politics, what have you. The promotion really didn't get its due during its heyday, and history will hopefully regard it as the very successful entity that it was, but. I have to ask you, with WWE cutting down significantly on live events, like around 75%, AEW having their issues. You've got like that GCW operating, but there seems to be a real void in the States, and definitely to varying degrees depending on where you are in this country. Do you think that there's ever a spot, so to speak, for an entity such as AWA Superstars in the future to get these names, run such a great locker room, have everybody happy, but most importantly, draw numbers like you're talking about?
Yeah. Okay. So here's what you do. If everyone's going to listen to a guy that helped do it in the past, number one, you must have a legitimate arena where tickets are sold, not at your ice cream store, not at your Ace Hardware, at Ticketmaster or online or StubHub. So I don't care if the arena is 1,500 people. It must say Civic Arena, blah, 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 arena, blah, 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 stadium. So a verifiable arena where tickets can be sold at Ticketmaster or StubHub to show everybody that an actual professional event is coming to their town. Number one. Number two, a sponsor who will give you enough money for one or two legitimate AEW or former just off TV WWE stars. Let me repeat that. A sponsor, a car dealer, a nightclub, a corporation that will give you all of your money to pay for an AEW, WWE, fresh off TV star, or a backup star, or at least a star. Or if AEW allows any of their talent to do independent shows, which I think they do.
They
So the
were. I'm
highest,
not sure now.
okay. So listen to Jonnie Stewart. You go rent the Civic Arena. You get it with Ticketmaster. You then get a sponsor. You get the highest person you think is on AEW. Who would it be? MJF? I'm sorry, don't laugh at me. You get the highest guy that's willing to do it, that's off that day, or you structure the event who's around that day. You pay him his $3,000, $4,000, whatever. You put his face and his face alone on the poster. You get all the other sponsors for banners around the ring, around the arena, to pay for your advertising, your local talent, the ring. Are you listening to me? Shut the freaking lights off in the arena and get spotlights or get the lights above the
Over the
freaking
ring.
ring. So when people come, they think they're at the Phantom of the Opera and they're seeing theater, and they might come back because you are making them focus on the ring, not letting them see all the people around the ring and the arena. And you make it professional. You have 5 matches. And yes, you don't bring out the star to the end. You don't put him in an autograph session or merch until the end. Okay, because you don't want to. Elvis Presley doesn't come out and sign autographs before he goes on for a concert. And that's how you run a successful wrestling. And you have people, you have this wrestling star calling TV, radio. You maybe have them do a local morning TV show. You blast them, you sell tickets, You go to football events, basketball, you push. And maybe you get 1,000, 1,500 people. This is how you make money. If you think you're going to make enough money to rent an arena and hire somebody from AEW, WWE, you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. But yes, I think it can be done. One guy, one woman, okay? Get a sponsor to cover that cost. Promote him on your poster. No one else. And that's how you can make money in the indie circuit with today's talent. Period.
Yeah, which seems to be kind of a forgotten model where there's 5,000 people on the poster, or it's overbooked, or and to be totally honest, I've been guilty of that myself, running elaborate angles, etc., and bringing in
confuse them, lose them.
Yeah.
Confuse them, lose them. Jack, there is nothing wrong with having a secondary poster. Listen to me, promoters. A secondary poster that has all of your students or wrestlers on that poster, so they can take 50 of them and say, Mom and Dad, I'm on the poster. Mr. Ace Hardware, I'm on the poster. Will you put it in your window? Will you put it up here? Buy some tickets. Yes, there's nothing wrong with that, but your number one mainstream advertising poster should have 1 star and 1 star only, and name it an event. Nobody is going to come and see GPCW. They don't know what that is. Name your event. If you're by a river, then, War on the Riverfront, War of the Shore. If you're by an ocean, I don't know. World War III. Give it a name event so people think the Academy Awards are coming. Nobody cares about the call letters of your wrestling promotion. Trust me.
Well, John, I've thoroughly enjoyed this interview, as per all our other interviews. Can you tell the fans once again? And I know you've got a lot of feedback. I've got a lot of feedback. Where they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, I'm not on social media, thank God. But if you want to, would you like to tell me anything, um, any comments, good or bad? My personal email, and I'm great about answering emails. I'm not a super celebrity. It's John Allen Stewart at AOL.com, but it's spelled JONALAN STEWART at AOL.com. The response has been almost overwhelming. The kind emails. I'm not saying you should be kind to me or feel free to unleash. I don't care, but the response has been great, and I answer emails as soon as I get them, and because I'm very appreciative that people take the time to reach out to me. And thank you for having me on for all three of these episodes. It's been great. I said it's been a catharsis for me. I don't do a lot of these, and I really appreciate your listeners and viewers giving me their precious time to listen to me talk on and on about my wrestling career. Maybe not the greatness of it, but certainly some really funny and unique stories.
No, I would disagree. I think you had I remembered you well from the AWA, and I've just learned so much, as I know the viewers have, in terms of your history in the business, and I think it's a very valuable exercise to get that out and in the record, and I very much appreciate it. We're going to stay in touch
Thank you.
for sure, but
Yep.
thank you once again for being on the Cheap Heat Productions podcast.
Thank you, Jack.
Well, fans, that's it for this edition. We will keep updating you as to the live content that we have, the other content. Make sure you hit that notification button, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching this video. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Cheap Heat Productions. Don't forget to hit the notification button, and you won't miss any of our upcoming interviews, recurring programs, or entertainment products. Thanks again, and keep watching.